98.7 CKPM FM.
That's Fast Romantics Animal, a band out of Calgary, and Jeff Neill is here. We might as well get into this a little bit early. I talked to a lady that you work with, Rachel Chatur.
Yes.
First off, Jeff Neill. Jeff Neill is, we had a discussion on Facebook yesterday about how many fantastic guitar players and musicians come out of the Vancouver, the West Coast area, and it's phenomenal. I mentioned a few, and then Terry Gray hopped in and mentioned a whole bunch more, and then there's some more. What is it with that? Is something in the water?
Well, I think that there was a great scene in Vancouver that existed in the 70s and on through the 80s. And we were talking about that yesterday in social media, and the atmosphere that was in this city and in the sort of lower mainland. There were so many clubs, and you could stay in Vancouver for 2 months and play a different club every week, and you could play 6 nights a week and make a living and work on your craft.
Yeah, it was. We were talking about that. I mean, everything from the center point over here where the Caribou Hotel used to be.
Great place.
Gators in Richmond,
sure.
The Body Shop downtown. Oh man, there's just so much good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we wish we could have those again, but who knows? Maybe live music will make a comeback one day.
Well, I think it's I talk with other musicians about that. It's not really the musician's fault that it went away.
No.
The atmosphere, the audience, the scene that existed, the infrastructure was there for musicians to be able to apply their craft.
And that had a lot to do with the people that owned the bars. I mean, everything from the Bruce Allen and Lou Blair and everybody involved with Club Soda.
Absolutely.
And that, and just saying, yeah, live music, and it was a great thing. And clubs went away from that.
Well, and the whole structure and the Vancouver as a city has changed obviously so much over the past 30 years. The Body Shop was on the corner of Hornby and Smythe, and it had a parking lot.
Yes.
Sort of a dirt parking lot there, where you could park. So, I mean, that luxury of space is gone.
That's funny because first time I walked into that bar, I think I was working at Seafox at the time. I just started there. And I walked down the street and around the corner, and I walk in, and there's some guy up on stage whipping his guitar with his guitar strap, playing Take Me to the River, and it was Ian Cameron.
Oh.
I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. So he's another local guitar player.
Yes.
Here's a lady that you work with. You have a current little project you're doing. What's that called?
It's called The Rocking Birds. It's Rachel Chatur, Russell Earl Marsland, and myself, and then it's acoustic trio. And we basically we have 5 hours of music, which is some of the greatest music that's ever been written in the history of pop music. So,
well, here's one of Rachel's originals, and it was produced by Mick Delavia, a guy who rode in the trailer when you guys came out from Ontario.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll talk about that right after this song. Here's Rachel Chatur and Overboard, Tri-City Radio. Tri-City Radio, 98.7 CKPM FM, Rachel Chatur and Overboard, one of the lovely people you work with, and what a great voice.
She's a terrific singer.
She is indeed, and she says, I looked at I stalked her Facebook page, and she says she's vocal and guitarist with the Rocking Birds. She plays at the Hit Zone, host musician at Sheila's Bistro and Catering.
Yes, she's a very, very busy woman and one of the hardest working people I know.
And I think we should go to Sheila's Bistro and Catering for dinner today.
Beautiful food, great music.
Excellent. So Jeff Neill is with me right now. He's part of the Rock for Kids 30 that's happening at the Hard Rock Casino on Sunday. 12 bands, 12 hours. They're saving the best for last, so to speak. You and some friends are going to get up at about 11 o'clock on Sunday.
Yeah, and I'm going to be doing some stuff actually earlier than that. I'll be doing a couple of songs with the Trailer Park Playboys.
Oh, nice.
That's a good one in the morning. And also with the Vindicators as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. Some great musicians, wonderful people, and it's going to be great fun.
This is good because I get up quite early, and I was kind of disappointed that I thought I'd have to stay around to the end of the night to see you, but that's good. I'll be able to see you earlier. Now, this is all raising money for Variety, the children's charity. Annette MacArthur has put this on, and she's 30th anniversary, so it's kind of cool.
It's a real special thing, and Annette is a wonderful woman and works really hard and has really dedicated herself to this really great charity.
And I think she comes from that time and place that, I come from and you come from, the live music scene here in Vancouver and the area, and just all the great memories and the great musicians that came out of it. So
Sure.
I think that's why we keep doing this. I got to play some commercials for you. The weather's going to be soggy. You live on the border of Vancouver and Burnaby, and you said when you left there it wasn't raining?
It was leather jacket weather. By the time I hit in your beautiful part of the world here, it was pounding with rain.
So from leather jacket weather to wetsuit weather, we're going to get some sunshine this afternoon. Highs to 10 is 8 outside our studios.
And ask for Team Leo.
I'm an idiot. We're talking about the Beatles, and your mic was on. I was like, oh gosh. Hey, it's 8 o'clock. Jeff Neill is with us. It is Tri-City Morning Show. Jeff is part of the Rock for Kids 30 up at the Hard Rock Casino in Coquitlam. It's happening on Sunday, and Annette MacArthur put that together, and it's going to be a fun time. It goes at noon right through to midnight. 12 bands, 12 hours. We got some VIP seats to give away for this. This is worth like $100 a piece. So I don't know how we're going to do this, but we'll figure out how to do it at some point this morning.
Yeah.
And now you have been a musician. You're lucky. You got to follow your dream. You started playing when you were like 11?
Yeah, I would say 11 years old is when I've been mucking around with instruments because we always had musical instruments in our house, pianos, guitars. And so I was interested in it. My parents played a lot of music. I got a lot of, my father played a lot of classical music, and my mom, some of my favorite records of hers were the Everly Brothers, Chubby Checker. And so my first bands, I got my first bass guitar and amp when I was 11 years old.
So how did you make the transition from bass to guitar? I mean, bass players are a totally different animal, and then you get the guitar player, right?
Well, when you're a kid, you're still kind of finding your way. I knew how to play guitar when I was already playing bass. I picked up bass because I love Paul McCartney, left-handed and all that stuff. And after a couple of years of playing bass, I said, you know what? I wouldn't mind playing that guitar. I think I can do a good job. I think I can beat the other kids on the block. Yeah, I said, if 2 more strings, I'll be in good shape.
That's good. So, Paul McCartney, bass player, you saw him. What drew you to him? What drew you to the Beatles?
Well, it was so exciting to see that happen. And the first time, I saw them like we all saw them for the first time, February 9th, 1964. I'm 7 years old. That's my moment. That's the seminal moment in my life where everything changed.
Wow.
And here I am.
And you look at how the guitarmanship has changed, if that's a correct term, from the Beatles to what you guys are doing now, and the way the instrument is being used.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a natural progression of sort of rock music. If you look back in the early days of guitar players, Scotty Moore, and all the sort of early rock guitar players, and the sounds kind of changed, and guitar players found distortion, they found bigger amps, Marshall amps came along, Hendrix happens, and all these innovators that started going, well, why not put this with this? And, that's how innovation is the way that things change.
Well, let's go back to the basics, back to your roots. The Beatles, She Loves You, Tri-City Radio.
She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, yeah.
Tri-City Radio, 98.7 CKPM FM, Rolling Stone, Street Fighting Man. I've sort of given the keys to the station, to the music box, to Jeff Neill here this morning. Jeff Neill, one of our fantastic local musicians, one of my favorite guitar players, is here. It's all part of the Rock for Kids 30 that's happening at the Hard Rock Casino on Sunday. The Rolling Stones, that's another one of your favorite ones. What is it about that song?
That song, when that first chord hits, the intro to that song just makes all the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
But it doesn't sound right. To me, it's like, okay, I like it, but to me, as like listening, it's like, what's wrong with that?
Well, apparently the story is Keith Richard, who's playing an open tuning there, which gives it that kind of nice droney ring. He's recording that acoustic guitar, into a tape recorder or something like this. But when we were talking about this earlier, the great thing about rock and roll is what's wrong about it is what's right.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of thumbing its nose at authority, and that's what great rock and roll really was all about.
And the experimentation you all did, and I was talking to Brent Howard. Now, there's an amp that is being reproduced again a tube amp, and I can't remember the name. It's a very simple name. I think it's along the lines of a Marshall, but it's not a Marshall.
Okay.
But it's a tube amp, and he's got that, and he says it's his favorite amp.
Wow.
And Bachman's using them as well. So I guess what's old is new again.
Yeah, the old technology is superior in a lot of ways. It's why engineers go back to old tube outboard equipment, old microphones. The old records actually sound better.
Yes.
I mean, the digital gives everybody much more freedom to manipulate the sound. It gives them a lot more freedom to have, full-blown studios right in their own home.
Yeah.
But they don't have the high quality that those individual pieces of equipment had.
Yeah, and that's it. And you talk about experimentation. This next guy spent some time in Vancouver here because his aunt was a cleaning lady or something down here. So he spent some time in the Main Street and Terminal. That area
the
there.
Vancouver scene the R&B scene was happening there.
Yeah, and Seattle boy, what's it about Jimmy?
Oh, well, it's Jimi Hendrix. What could I say that it hasn't already been said about him? But I thank my brother for introducing him to me. I was listening to Dave Clark 5 or something. He said, you need to listen to this guy. And this was, and I looked at the album cover and I'm kind of going, this guy's kind of, and then he played Spanish Castle Magic for me, which just knocked my socks off. It changed everything. All of a sudden I went from listening to pop music to going, and he kind of drew me to guitar.
And this is a Hendrix cover of a Bob Dylan song. This is All Along the Watchtower.
Beautiful.
Right on. Tri-City Radio. Jimi Hendrix, All Along the Watchtower. I've handed the keys to the music over to Jeff Neill this morning, fantastic guitarist, part of the Rock for Kids thing that's happening, Rock for Kids 30 over at the Hard Rock Casino. On Sunday, starts at noon. You got to be there, at noon, but there's VIP tickets you can get for $100. We're giving away a couple of those. Somehow this morning, it's probably going to be a Facebook thing because we're so popular on Facebook yesterday.
Yes, we are.
What is it about that Jimi Hendrix? I mean, that is probably my favorite Hendrix song. The feel of it gets me.
Well, Hendrix his foundation of his playing was in R&B and soul music, so his rhythm and his feel for the music was fantastic. His mind for experimentation, the fact that Chaz Chandler, his manager, producer in the early days, allowed him to do whatever he wanted to do. Jimmy had a great mind, but Watchtower is like a perfect example of all the styles that Jimmy is a master at. You know, the bluesy, riffy stuff, the jazzy stuff, the hard rock, screaming solos, and it's really all encapsulated in that one song.
It is indeed. We have got a bunch of other artists that we're going to get through in the next 45 minutes or so. Jeff Neill is here. Jeff is the guitar player for Streetheart, among other things. We got to talk about Streetheart in a bit and Kenny Shields and that. Yep. And Kenny is one of my favorite Canadian vocalists. I think I've got two, Kenny and Burton.
That's high praise for Kenny. Kenny has a very unique voice, and as soon as the song starts and you hear him sing, you know who it is. Yeah, and we've got a song coming up next from a guy. As soon as that first guitar note is hit, you know who it is, and it's coming up next.
Staying competitive in today's business environment.
It's this year's Rock for Kids, February 14th at the Hard Rock Casino.
It's 8:18. Good morning. Soggy this morning. Some sunshine this afternoon. As Jeff Neill, our guest, said when he left, Vancouver, it was East Van. It was leather jacket weather. When he got here, I said it was wetsuit weather. So
I forgot my wetsuit.
That's the thing about living in this rainforest we have. But we're going to get some sunshine this afternoon, highs to about 10. We're almost going chronologically through a lot of this. Another fantastic guitar player that is somebody who has never really got the, outside of you being a musician, he's never really become the star outside of being a fan of musicians kind of guy.
I know what you're saying, but he is the living master of electric guitar.
Yes. You want to play?
I just next to Hendrix, Jeff Beck is my hero.
And this one song, we talked about the history of music, and when you hear a song, you say, hey, that's kind of a cool song, and you like it, and then you go back and do some research later, and you find out it's based on another song.
Yes. Well, that's, that was a product of as we were talking about, growing up as a kid, you hear songs for the first time. I heard Beatles covering R&B songs thinking that they were their songs, and it took me years later to figure out, right, okay, that's who Smokey Robinson is.
Yeah, and this one here, it's based on a classical song by Ravel. This is Beck's Bolero. What is it about this song?
Well, I mean, it's Jeff Beck, it's Jimmy Page, it's Keith Moon, and it's sort of the beginning of the Jeff Beck sound. And this is one of the first tracks when I heard Jeff Beck outside of the Yardbirds that I kind of went, I love this guy, the way he plays in his tone.
Here's Beck's Bolero, Tri-City Radio. Wow. you think of all the guitar players that Jeff Beck influenced, Jimmy Page influenced, just on that song alone right there.
Absolutely.
It was almost a wall of sound, but you can hear it. It's not like the Todd Rundgren wall or Phil Spector wall of sound, but you could sort of differentiate everybody's work in there.
Well, certainly, I mean, Jimmy Page being a producer and Jeff Beck having a vision, I mean, and they were... Musicians were experimenting, and the British musicians and American musicians were experimenting with new sounds and trying new things, and they were going into a studio and go, what have we got? What can we make? How can we make it sound different? And they're finding their styles then.
There it is. We're going to take a break from the American and the British guys and go down to Australia.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, you've had a very interesting career. So you grew up in Sault Ste. Marie.
Yes.
Which is an outpost.
Yes, it is. Yes.
So welcome to Canada. You're finally on the West Coast.
Yes.
You had a couple of friends, buddies you started playing over at Sault Ste. Marie with, and you decided to make the trek.
Yes. Myself and Michael Sicoli, Mick Delavey, and Brian Armstrong, the four of us, we all went to high school together. Wadding Collegiate, and we actually formed the band out here. Brian had a brother-in-law that had a home in Surrey, and we rehearsed in the basement for a couple of weeks, and then went out on the road, and here we are now.
Okay, so all the people that are, let's say, in the latter part of their life cycle will remember the name of the band. What was the name of the band?
The band was Shama.
Shama,
yeah.
And what a great band that was.
Sure
I remember seeing
was.
you guys at Centerpoint and that. So Shama moved on, and you moved on as well.
Yes, well, Shama broke up around 1980. I had an opportunity to audition for Streetheart later on in that year, which I went out and did that and was given the job, and I did that up until 1984. And then in 1986, I got a call from Bruce Allen, who asked me to go out and do a 3-month tour with an artist that he was working with named Jimmy Barnes in the U.S.
I was a fan of Jimmy Barnes through a friend of mine in Australia, and I heard little bits and pieces of him, and then I found out you were working with him. I thought, how cool is that?
Well, it was a very interesting career. I mean, it was supposed to be a 3-month tour. We were opening up for ZZ Top in the U.S., and at the end of that tour, Jimmy asked me, he said, Jeff, I want you to come over to Australia, fix my band. So I went. He took me over to Australia, and I played with his band there, and I stayed with him for 11 years, did half a dozen records with him, and had a very, very big career over there in Australia with him.
And we'll probably play the song that he's best known for in a bit, but right now I'd like to play this one. There's a story behind this song and this album. What happened here?
Well, this was an album of soul and R&B covers, which is Jimmy's first love of music. He is an incredible soul singer. His producer, Don Gaiman, was in Australia, and Jimmy said, let's do a quick album, a week and a half. Let's knock off. I want to do all my favorite R&B songs. So we picked a bunch of number one R&B songs, and we did them in a week and a half. It became Jimmy's biggest selling record, sold almost 1 million copies in Australia.
Wow. And this is a cover of River Deep, Mountain High. Many people have covered it before, but
Yes.
this is a kick butt song.
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Jimmy Barnes, Tri-City Radio.
When you were a young girl, did you have a rag doll?
Tri-City Radio, 98.7 CKPM FM. That's going to get the caffeine flowing through your veins this morning.
Yeah.
Jimmy Barnes, River Deep, Mountain High. Jeff Neill is with us. Jeff is one of the artists that's part of the Rock for Kids 30. Jeff played guitar on that with Jimmy Barnes. And we were talking about Australian musicians off the when the song was playing, and just how they all seem to have that sort of same style. I mean, you look at Airborne, you look at Johnny Farnham, Jimmy Barnes, Brian Johnson, Bon Scott. They have that raspiness.
Well, all those singers that you mentioned, a lot of their roots are in soul and R&B music, and that was really apparent to me when I lived in Australia. The scene has developed there independent of the sort of the strong influence that the U.S. had, like, on Canada. Like, we were always this little brother to the big brother of Canada, a big brother of the U.S. being the big market, being the show. Australia, being so isolated, was its own show, so it developed a lot of its own music, and a lot of these singers did come from the R&B backgrounds.
And that's neat. And you just brought up a thought here, because yesterday, Christy Clark, Premier of BC, got together with Michael Bublé and Matthew Good and everybody, and they announced this $15 million fund for BC music, trying to make Vancouver the place to come to, as opposed to having to go to Ontario to do these things. How cool is that?
Well, I think it's the thought behind doing that is an excellent idea. And I don't know what they're going to do with all those funds yet, but it's nice to know that there is some funding there available for the arts and for music.
Yeah, we need to get music is just such a great thing. I got my kid a guitar for Christmas, and I don't know what he's going to do with it, but he plays it every now and then. He doesn't want to take lessons, but he just looks at it and strums away and has some fun.
Well, just remember, the great rock and roll music sort of comes from the soul. It's not really from funding or all that stuff. Comes from individuals, and that's where rock and roll is about rebellion in its truest form.
Right on. Hey, it's 8:32. Some sunshine this afternoon, rain this morning. Going to come back with more Jeff Neill and a song. I'm not going to tell him what we're going to play, but the first note, he'll know exactly what it is. It's coming up next.
Get ready. The Nissan New Year one-day sale is coming February 17th to Maury Nissan of Coquitlam with exciting offers on the rugged Pathfinder and the stylish Altima. Now step up with no-charge
Conspiracy Show every week on Tri-City Radio, 98.7 CKPM FM.
This is a song that, when I first heard it, I fell in love with the band because of its crisp, clear sound. And if I was to play, I'm just going to do this, and then I'll reload the song again. So what was it about that? And
yeah.
It was just, there's something about it. It's just, I don't know what it is.
Well, they're perfect notes to start with.
Yeah.
And that song, the first time I heard it, I was living in Sault Ste. Marie. I'm 16 or 17 years old, I'm thinking at the time. And I'm already planning my great world domination takeover. I hear this song, and it's about halfway through the song, and I'm just going, what is this? I have to pull over to listen to it and go, oh, and I hear the announcer going, and I'm thinking he said, I thought that was by a band called Dan Steele. Of course, so I phoned up the radio station. I go, no, it's a band called Steely Dan. So immediately I went out and bought the record, and the next day, and it just, what a brilliant song.
Were you one of those kids that phoned up and bugged the heck out of the radio guys there? Because Sault Ste. Marie isn't a big place, is it?
No, it isn't. A little bit, not much. I was more buying records. I was reading, I was studying, I was getting every rock and roll publication, Rolling Stone Circus, Cream magazine, and memorizing everything in them and buying as many records as I could. I was actually the guy that was bringing my friends over the house going, I was the first guy to the Queen record, Mott the Hoople, going, this is what you should be checking out. All this stuff.
Right on. Well, here's Steely Dan, Reeling in the Years, Tri-City Radio. Tri-City Radio, 98.7 CKPM FM. Steely Dan, Reeling in the Years. Jeff Neill is here, guitar player extraordinaire, and I don't want to make him blush or anything, but honestly, we've got a lot of great musicians in this Vancouver area on the West Coast, and Jeff is up in the top there. He's our guest this morning. Thanks again for coming in.
Rod, it's great to be here. Thank you.
You are a part of the Rock for Kids 30 happening at the Hard Rock Casino on Sunday. 12 bands, 12 hours. You're going to be doing a couple different things. You're probably going to be there for about 6 hours.
I'll be hanging around for a while. I mean, there's lots of great friends and people to see, and it's nice to be part of that event, and it's such a worthy cause.
It is indeed. Proceeds go to Variety, the children's charity. Those tickets. So we're going to post something on our Facebook page, and you're going to share it, and then we'll draw for the tickets later on today. $100 VIP tickets, $100 each, 2 tickets. And this means in and out access, a little bit of a snack bar, and a goodie bag. And Annette MacArthur, who put this on, is the queen of the goodie bags.
Absolutely. I mean, she works so hard, and she is very good at this.
And I'm wondering if it's going to be like one of those goodie bags she does for the Oscars.
I mean, those things have like cars in them, and real Rolex
diamond
watches,
rings, and
diamond rings,
$1,000 bills.
Oh, nice.
Nice. You, besides being, well, I guess, can you be a musician without being a songwriter?
Absolutely. There are great musicians who aren't writers, great singers who have had great careers, and they have other people write their music for them. I mean, Frank Sinatra wasn't a songwriter, but he was a great singer and a great artist. I mean, that's a sort of one example from.
Yeah, I guess you could go the country route. George Strait. I never really thought of that. A great singer and very, very, very few songs he's written himself, right?
Well, they have this great voice and they have everything else in place. I think you have to recognize. I think smart musicians recognize what they're best at, where they need help. You can't let the ego get in the way thinking, oh, I'm going to write songs, I'm going to write my own music, I'm going to live and die by my music. Well, sometimes the second thing happens and you don't do well, and you're better off bringing in somebody who understands songwriting. When did you discover you could write? I think I was always writing songs as a kid, not very good songs, but in Shama we wrote all the time. At one time we were playing primarily all our own music and during the course of a night. So we were sort of living off of our own music. So by the time I got to Streetheart, I had some experience, and being with Streetheart really helped me to work on my craft, because we were actually writing songs and they were actually getting looked at for records. So it made you raise your game up a little bit and work harder. Right on. So what kind of love is this? A Streetheart song, a hit for Streetheart. Yes. What was the inspiration behind that song? Well, I was at that time. I was going out. I had the genesis for the song, the chorus, the phrase, and the riff, the guitar riff at the beginning of the song. I was really trying to pay a bit of an homage to All the Young Dudes, which is a song that I love. I was trying to sort of recreate the spirit of that without copying it. But that was kind of my thing. I was trying to write this sort of quasi-British song that I could present to Streetheart. Right on. And was it written about a girl, or was it just something in general? Well, I had the idea for the chorus lyric. When we started working on it together, I had the riff and the chorus, and Daryl Gutal, keyboard player for Streetheart, and Kenny just fleshed out the verses, and Daryl and Kenny wrote the lyrics. So it is kind of, Kenny sort of took it into the broken-hearted love song type of, which is his want. And Kenny does that so well. Like I said, he's one of my favorite Canadian vocalists. It was to get girls. Yeah. This is Streetheart. What kind of love is this? Tri-City Radio. Tri-City Radio, 98.7 CKPM FM. Streetheart, what kind of love is this? Are you a perfectionist, Jeff Neill? Oh, yes, I am, but I've never been perfect. Yeah, but we talked about this, and that song, you guys recorded it as a demo. Yes. And then what happened? Well, what everyone has heard is the demo of What Kind of Love Is This? This is a song that we recorded in Winnipeg at Century 21 Studios. And we took it down to Toronto, where we recorded with George Simcoe producing, and we tried to better the demo, and we weren't getting it. And actually the song was going to be let go. It wasn't even going to go on the record. Well, Dean Cameron, who was the president of Capital EMI at the time, in his infinite wisdom said, if you don't put this song on the record, it's not coming out. Wow. Said, put the demo on. We put the demo of What Kind of Love Is This, and it's the most successful song that the band ever wrote. And it's like I said, it's such a good song, and it's part of Canadian history. I thank you for saying that. That's nice to know that. I think it's a great song. I'm very, very proud of that song. Excellent. Jeff Neill is here, guitar player, musician, songwriter. You actually do, besides doing your touring and playing with bands, you also do like little theme things for bits for TV shows and that, and video games. How's that? Well, I really like that. I've been writing for television for a number of years now, and Mick Delavy and myself, we have a music company. We were one of the group of writers for the most recent Mike Holmes series, Holmes Makes It Right. We're involved with a number of shows down in the U.S. now. We have some representation down there. So, and it's great fun. And I do that. I work at that. That's an everyday thing that I do. I work at writing music for television, and it's allows me an opportunity to write original music with some freedom to kind of do what I want within a basic structure, and it's real exciting.
And it's kind of funny because when I'm at the gym, they've got the TV sets on the treadmill, and I'll turn it on, depending which show it is, and usually it's Holmes on Holmes or that Brian show or the Fixer Upper.
Right.
But the Holmes on Holmes or Holmes Makes It Right, I'll be running along and like, oh, there's a good groove to a song, and
It's probably us.
it's probably you guys. Jeff Neill is here. Rock for Kids 30 is happening at the Hard Rock Casino on Sunday. Proceeds go to Variety, the children's charity. A couple of VIP tickets to give away. We're going to post this on our Facebook page in a bit, and you'll have a chance to win. Jeff will be back with us right after these.
The Tri-Cities Community Calendar, brought to you by the Tri-City News.
Hashtag tweet your meat at CKPM FM. Another unusual promotion from Tri-City Radio.
That unusual promotion we're doing is tweet your meat. So if you're a fan of protein, chicken, fish, beef, whatever it is, we want you to tweet a picture of your food. Hashtag is tweet your meat at CKPM on our Twitter thing. We're giving away a $100 gift basket for the Meatcraft Urban Butchery. So
That's so great.
I know. And so far, everybody has been so clean about this, and I am so thankful.
Oh, I can't even. I got nothing. Nothing clean.
You said something earlier. We were off mic here, and practice. You are a professional musician. You are a phenomenal guitar player. Why practice?
Well, I hope this is understood right. I get paid to be a good guitar player. So I cannot show. I owe my fans that have been loyal to us for 30 years to do everything I can to be as good as they remember me being, years ago. I love to play. I want to be as good as I can possibly be. I'm realistic about my talent. I mean, I just work hard to be the best that I can be.
And that's that's something
practice.
There, yeah. Because we're Facebook friends, and I see, and you're a very inspired person. I don't know what drives you.
A lot of the stuff that I post, they're kind of notes to myself to kind of get I'm inspired by other people, which inspires me to try and share that and pay that forward. I come by it honestly from my parents, who were real doers of things. They got things done. My father's a very prolific writer. My father's a poet and writes short stories. He's had 15 books published. He has over 10,000 works.
Wow.
Completed. So I understand that the body of work is really, really important. As a musician, as an artist or a painter or any type of artist, it's your body of work. It's not just one thing. It's a body of work that will give you a longevity. And I mean, with Streetheart, for example, we play a 90-minute show, and everybody knows every song. There's no filler in there because we're lucky enough. We have this body of work so that it still stands up today.
And you're I don't know whoever said it, but you're only as good as your last show.
Absolutely. I mean, and for us, we try and let's play this like this could be our last show. Let's give everything we got, which we do. I mean, I think Streetheart, we're very consistent night to night. Our fans are great. They give us so much support and so much inspiration and energy to us when we go out and play. So it's easy to put everything into it.
Yeah, Jeff Neill is here, guitar player with Streetheart, played with Jimmy Barnes. He's a phenomenal talent. He's part of the Rock for Kids 30 at the Hard Rock Casino on Sunday, the Asylum Soundstage. It's going to be a good time.
It's going to be a great evening.
And right now, 1979 or so, the start of the punk movement here in Canada, and this one record sort of broke it open for everybody.
Yeah, and I think this is, if not the greatest, certainly one of the greatest songs to come out of that punk era and that particular time in music.
Here's The Clash, London Calling, Tri-City Radio. Tri-City Radio, 98.7 CKPM FM. That's Clash, London Calling. It's Rod MacBeth with Jeff Neill. Jeff Neill's part of Rock for Kids 30 at the Hard Rock Casino on Sunday, midnight. It ends at noon. It starts at 12 bands, 12 hours. Jeff, we were talking about rock and roll, how it doesn't seem to have a face anymore, really, does it?
Well, and as we were saying, rock and roll grows out of an environment of people, how they're living. The great music from the 60s came out of that, from the post-World War II thing, War Babies, especially the British music that I really fell in love with. These are kids from really poor, modest neighborhoods, working class neighborhoods, trying to find a way out. And music was this great escape for them. And it's a different thing now. I mean, the culture is much different now, so it's different. Music won't grow in the same way now.
It is, and we were talking about you're relating a story. Like I met Robert Plant, and you haven't, even though you've been around the world, and you've never. I've got a picture of me and Robert Plant that'll always be there.
I've been 4 feet from him, though.
I never. Yeah.
Well, I was. Can I tell this story?
Yeah.
I was with Jimmy Barnes. We were doing a promo tour. We were in Hamburg, Germany. We were staying at the hotel. We were sitting downstairs in the lounge, waiting. We were talking to our liaison with BMG Records, who was going, "Okay, we're doing this. Okay, we got this at 10:30. We got this at 11. This at 11:30." And we had heard that Robert Plant and Jimmy Page were in the hotel because they were doing a promo tour as well for their Page Plant album. Well, Robert Plant walks in, and this guy's a rock star. A tall, good-looking, big, Viking-looking guy, well-dressed. He sits down beside me and the table beside me, and I what am I going to do? Robert, I love your music. I have all your records.
That's it exactly.
I'm your biggest fan. So I chose not to. He was just sitting there, and I'm just thinking, this guy's this guy's a real star. And then Jimmy Page comes in, and I'm like, So I said, what can I say to these guys? They're busy talking business. We're talking business. Just seeing that was pretty special to be that close.
And I think I'm the same, because all I did is say thanks for the music and shook his hand, and that was it. Because
wonderful,
yeah. That's all you can do. The Police are another band that came out of England, and I remember Mick Delavey with you guys singing this song. Mick has got an incredible vocal range. He annoys the hell out of me sometimes, as Mick is a guy, but he's an incredible singer. And seeing him sing this song, and I think it might have been, I don't know, Centerpoint or Gators, but Roxanne, the Police.
Yeah, they did a wonderful job.
Yes, here's the Police, Tri-City Radio. Tri-City Radio, 98.7 CKPM FM, The Police and Roxanne. That was a song that sort of, that one and Walking on the Moon did it for me with The Police.
They were so great. Roxanne was the first song I heard by The Police. And again, listening to the radio, halfway through the song going, it's kind of a reggae song. And then it breaks into a rock chorus. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is brilliant. This band's going to be huge.
And they were kind of on the tailing edge of the punk scene into what we called the new wave scene. And
yeah, although I think they had a secret ingredient. They had a brilliant songwriter.
Yes,
and they were. I mean, I sort of see them. They were the next. They were a great pop band, not unlike the Beatles. I think that they eclipsed every album with the next one they did, and I think they kind of went out at their peak, not unlike the Beatles. I think they've had an amazing career.
They have, and I look at Sting's work with them, and honestly, I think some artists fade away, and Sting did his best work with them. Then he had a couple of good solo albums, but ever since then, I mean, it's hard because you've got your whole life to write your first 20 songs.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like, oh.
But the truth still is that Sting has such an amazing body of work, both with all the stuff with the Police, and he's done an enormous amount of great stuff as a solo artist, and he's a terrific artist and one of the great artists.
That is true, very true indeed. We have to play this Jimmy Barnes song. I know we've gone over time, but we're going to, because I'm going to invite you back. Because there's a gazillion stories here, but we have to go back to Jimmy, because Jimmy, I think that he has been not given his dues here in North America. This one song that he did with In Excess. Yeah,
well, Bon Jovi called Jimmy Barnes rock and roll's best kept secret. And we did several shows with Bon Jovi. Great guys, really. It was a great touring with him, and he's absolutely right. And this is a brilliant track. This was to promote a tour that we did with In Excess called Australia Made. This was in 1987. It was all the top artists from Australia doing big concert. We were doing big football stadiums.
Excellent. This is Good Times. Jimmy Barnes, In Excess, and Jeff Neill, Tri-City Radio.
Gonna have a good time tonight.
Tri-City Radio, 98.7 CKPM FM. That's Jimmy Barnes in excess. How much fun was that song to play, Jeff Neill?
It was terrific. I ended up, when we were doing the shows with Jimmy, I'd sing Michael's part. So, and there's a great clip on YouTube of Jimmy and I doing that at Wembley Arena in London back in 1995 with the great Cozy Powell playing drums.
Wow.
And Neil Murray from Whitesnake playing bass, and it was a great moment. We did a show for Gibson Guitars called Night of 100 Guitars. Brian May was there, Neil Sean, Slash, Zach Wild, all these great guitar players. And
so all these young musicians that are listening right now, and even some older ones, are like, "Oh my God!" It's like, but you are. You're not jaded, and you're not taken by this like some people are. It's like you don't go gaga over the talent that you get to play with. They're just guys, right?
And they are, when you get them on their own, they are just guys. Like being in a rehearsal room with Cozy Powell, I'm telling Cozy, okay, here's the count, okay, and he was just like a cool dude, just kind of hanging around. I'm going, this guy's played with Jeff Beck, and he's playing with me. You know, I'm going, how did I get here?
And a phenomenal drummer. And I keep thinking, like you talk about, I think we talked about this off air, is if you're a professional athlete, you get signed to a contract if you're good.
Absolutely. It's simple math.
And if you're a musician,
that's a very small part of the equation.
Yeah, because you look at it like guys that are so freaking good, but they are maybe not known outside of Canada as much. Mark LaFrance, he hits those drums, he plays the drums. Matt Fournette, I mean, you don't get much better than those two guys.
No, they're great players, and music isn't a fair business. It's a very seductive business, and people think that it's great, and I mean it is. I mean, there's wonderful things, and I would never ever complain about anything that I am my lot in life. But you have to be a little bit thick-skinned, and you have to always look around and make sure that you don't be too hard on yourself, because it's not really a fair business. But you know, you can make it, but you have to be clever.
Yeah, you're doing what you love. Hey, not many people get to do that.
I'm doing what I love, and I'm very grateful for that, Rod.
Music, we talked about this a while ago, and this was off air too. Music as a smell can take you back to that time and that place.
It sure can.
It's two of the very few things that'll do that. You were out doing some yard work a couple of years ago.
Well, I was working in the yard a couple of years ago, and I'm out there digging away in the lawn. All of a sudden, I can hear this song playing, and I'm kind of looking, where is that coming from? And I see these two young kids, and they're sort of 18, 19 years old, and they look like sort of retro hippies, and and they got their backpacks and little suitcases, and they got a ghetto blaster on their back, and they're playing this song, and this song brings back so many wonderful memories for me as a kid, hanging around the record stores and when artists were like gods to us, and we would just stare at the album covers for hours listening to the music. And I watched them walk away as the song is fading out and ending. And I got a little misty remembering my own life and how great it's been, and seeing these kids just starting out their lives.
Here's Rod Stewart. Every picture tells a story. Tri-City Radio. Yeah, just Rod Stewart, and he was one of my first favorites because we have the same first names, you know, and that's funny how that goes. Every picture tells a story. It's Rod MacBeth with Jeff Neill. We've gone overtime today, but I don't give a rat's behind because Jeff has got some fantastic stories here. Now, Jeff Neill is part of Rock for Kids 30 that's happening at the Hard Rock Casino, the Asylum Soundstage, Sunday. It's all part of the Variety Club, and proceeds for this go to Variety, the children's charity. Jeff is a guitar player, makes his living playing music. And you've traveled the world. You've got to live the dream.
I have been very, very lucky in my life, and I'm very grateful for that.
And we've talked about people you've played with, people that you might want to play with. The list is probably 1,000 pages long, but I mean, of course, there's some locals that you get to write with on a regular basis. But is there anybody that you would like to play with or would like to write with off the top of your head?
Well, that's such a hard question because there are so many of them. But I mean, there are great artists that I know that I would love to have been in the same room. I mean, could you imagine writing with John Lennon? Man, I said, John, I've got this idea for a verse. What do you think?
Oh, bloody hell, get out.
I mean, I would love to say, Jimmy, I've got this song that I'm working on. Do you think you can put some guitar on it for me? You know, I mean, all these great artists have done wonderful things. I would love to have watched Jimmy Page at his prime producing the Led Zeppelin sounding, putting that together.
Led Zeppelin, I told you I kind of got tired of the music because of a station I worked at.
I
It was
understand,
their
yeah.
house band, right?
Yes.
But then I saw the Kennedy Center tribute when Hart played for them, and watching Jimmy Page and
looked like a
Robert
proud
Plant.
father, right?
And John Bonham, and watching Ann and Nancy Wilson. It made me love Led Zeppelin again.
They are such an important band. I mean, next to the Beatles, Led Zeppelin is my favorite band, just for what they've done and the influence that they've had on music.
And we're going to leave with this. Jeff Neill, thank you so much for coming by.
Rod, thank you. We really
Jeff,
appreciate it.
Yeah, no, this has been great. Jeff Neill is a guitar player for Streetheart. He's played with some of the best in the world. And he's all part of Rock for Kids 30. It's happening Sunday, the Asylum Soundstage. Proceeds go to Variety, the children's charity. Led Zeppelin, for you, my friend, Jeff Neill. Babe, I'm going to leave you. Tri-City Radio.